Okay, here goes. Hi, I am Nogi. Today I will interview Solara, the world-famous 11/11 visionary, regarding the closing 11/11 doorway ceremonies. Now it has changed the name to 11/11 An Amua, taking place in Peru. I am sure her messages will inspire many people, and I am strongly hoping that many people will know the true meaning of this very special event in November this year. So welcome, Solara. How are you?
Hello, Nogi. Good to see you always.
To see you too. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Yeah. So there will be the 11/11 An Amua ceremonies in Peru in November. Of course, I will go. I will be there. But what is the significance of this event?
Good question. I have to go back a little bit to answer it. What is the 11/11 doorway? And back in January 11th and 12th, 1992, tens of thousands of people gathered together all over the world as some as individuals, some in huge groups. There were groups for example, in Brazil and Mexico that had 2,000, 3,000 people in them. They were held all over the world, and we activated the doorway of the 11/11. We opened it, and the doorway of the 11/11 is the bridge between two spirals of evolution. It's the bridge between duality and oneness. And up until then, the evolutionary spiral of duality was very separate from the evolutionary spiral of oneness. And what we did in our ceremonies is we took those two very different and very far away evolutionary spirals, and we created a zone of overlap between them. And then for the last 32 years, we've been passing through that zone of overlap, stepping out of duality, stepping deeper into oneness. And originally, the 11/11 doorway was supposed to close on November 11th, 2011, but we hadn't even finished all the activations of it. So, and I also realized that people needed more time. It's a big shift, changing reality systems. It's not just well, maybe some can, but it's not just usually something you do in 5 minutes or 5 years. It's really walking out of everything that we knew before and stepping into a whole different evolutionary cycle with totally different experiences. So obviously in 2011, we weren't ready to close the 11/11 doorway. Nobody wanted it to be closed because nobody felt they were ready, and they weren't, we weren't. But finally it became very obvious last year that now we are reached a point where the 11/11 doorway has to close. And this is because old doors, even magnificent old doors that we love, that we can see have great benefit for us, they eventually reach a point where they have to close because there are new doorways behind them. There are many wondrous new energies that cannot be seen or accessed until the old doorway is closed. So that's why we're going to close it this year, and it feels really appropriate timing. We're in a very interesting time on planet Earth. It's not just when we were little, we were brought up to say, "Oh, this is real. This is reality. You know, get real, get grounded. This is kind of the parameters of our playing field, or what we can base our existence on." And then as we evolved and became more aware, we saw that there were other realities. There were invisible realities. And we started exploring those and vaster realities. And as we did that, we saw that the old reality of duality that was presented to us as this is what there is, there were many realities far more real, far more magnificent, far more new and fresh that also existed. And it's like parallel realities, but it's not. Parallel realities are more on kind of a equal trajectory or equal size, and these were vaster realities. And then the world of duality became more like a nightmare. And this world situation, as the old systems shatter, and as the forces that were trying to maintain control over humanity got more desperate and really pulled out more massive levels of manipulation and tried to maintain their control over humanity. You also found many people who had awakened were starting to pull the threads of their beings out of the tapestry of duality and just said, I don't choose to live in duality anymore. And so as each one of us pulled our thread out of that tapestry, what happened to the tapestry? That really tight weaving of duality that held it together started getting looser. The tight patterns in it, something you might have had a dark red rose full of thorns in the tapestry of duality, and suddenly it loosened and it loosened, and it became a giraffe. And you go, a giraffe? That's impossible. And so duality couldn't hold itself together. And also it's important for us to realize that we, humanity, we have been the food source to keep duality alive. As much as we'd like it to be gone, we're feeding it by believing in it, by feeling that, oh, this is the only reality, or this is the predominant reality. It's not. It never was. It's a superimposed, illusory, false reality. And so the more of us that started seeing that and just said, I'm not going to feed duality anymore. The game is over. And then then duality was saying, oh, I'm losing my food supply. And so let's bring out fear. Let's create world events. Let's create pandemics. Let's create all these things let's create more wars. Let's create more situations to pull people. Oh, they're back in fear. Good. Now we've got our food again. But still, even though that's happening really strongly all over the world, there's many of us, more of us all the time, who just say, look, the game is over. We don't play that game of duality anymore. And it's not just giving up the bad things, the obvious bad things. Okay, I'm not going to go fight in a war. We know that's bad. That's easy to be against war. How else do we play duality in our lives? Are we being honest and real and true all the time? Or do we still play those little games? Are we still not express our true feelings? Do we still not express our knowingness and share it with others? Do we still keep ourselves small and disempowered? These are all ways that we're still playing the game. And of course we want the game to be over out there. It's easy to look at the world and say, oh, that's bad. That game is over. That game is over. What about this game? Our internal game has to be over. And that's how we become free from duality. And that's how we gain access to these eternal, timeless, true worlds. And so many of us have been doing that the last few years. And we've been merging our timeless, true selves with our physical selves. It's no longer, oh, now I'm being physical. I'm washing the dishes. I'm driving my car. I'm going to work. And, oh, now I'm being spiritual. I'll light the incense. I'll meditate. I'll go away out of the world. We bring the timeless true worlds into the here and now. We bring the physical and we merge them together. And that's how we become timeless true ones. So as we've been doing this for several years now, it's the perfect time that the doorway of 1111 to close. It served its purpose. And I mean, yes, we could always do more. We can always do more healing. We can always eat a little bit more delicious food, but there's a certain time to go, enough is enough, and let's, some of us are already at the state where we can feel the beyond, what's beyond the 1111 doorway. We can't see it. I can't describe it, but I can feel it. And it feels amazing and so clean and true and fresh. But we can just sit on this side and feel it until we actually close the 1111 doorway. Sorry, long answer.
Thank
And
you very much. Yeah.
may I say one more thing?
Oh, yes, sure.
Back at the first 1111 ceremony in 1992, we had two, at the 1111 activations, we always have two or one master cylinder point, which is where the energies first come into the planet and then they spread out from there all over the world. And for the first one, we had two. One was in New Zealand, South Island, with 100 people. The other one was at the Great Pyramids, at the base of the pyramid of my, what? Menkaure, my husband, came to the rescue. I always blank out on that. I don't know why. And our ceremonies were 38 hours long because we were aligning with all the time zones all over the world as those anchor groups activated. And in Egypt, there were 500 of us. And every hour, we sang a song written by this musician named Matisha, and it's called The Family of An. And nobody knew anything. Most of the people had never heard of An or anything then. And we had people from 38 countries, and we sang that song every hour. And even people that didn't know English, they were going, blah, 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 family of An, and we were all. And so what we were doing at that first, while we were opening the 1111 doorway, we were planting the seeds of An into the earth. And An represents the new reality. It's the sun and the moon as one being. And An was first in this planet, like in ancient times. It was, An was a god of ancient Egypt. An was in the Druids. An was brought forth the Incas, the lineage of the Incas. An was in many, in China and in near Liang, that there's a strong An lineage. I'm sure in Japan has one too. A strong anchor. You just have to look back far enough. And often they made like ceramics, sun and moon as one being. And you can find it if you go looking for the clues of An. So what we were doing is planting the seeds for An to return to this planet, but on a new level. And this activation, or this series of ceremonies in November, as we close the 1111 doorway, can only be done by the family of An. And that they're the ones that we planted the seeds for. And so it's funny for somebody like me, who was at the first one planting the seeds, and then ones like you who came up from the seeds, and it's just perfect. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, Solara.